Converge has given him 2 jobs. No increase in pay, just increase in work, double the work. I wanted to read one statement from a letter from times past to us, to the mission committee. We know that in all things he is working out everything in our lives for our good and his glory, in that we can celebrate. Some of the ways we are celebrating God's goodness in our lives include the special time we had together as family during our summer in America, watching our children continue to thrive, both in their academics and extracurricular activities. The addition of new members to our team, our Polish team of people serving here in Poland, and God's continued provision as we rely on him for our support-based needs in ministry. We have a wonderful guest here tonight, guests, the Valentine family. Happy Valentine's Day. Steve, would you come and tell us about your ministry?
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I just want to start by saying thank you for your faithful partnership in ministry. What you will hear that I will talk about here in the next half hour or so is possible because of partners like you. And so as we get to celebrate what we see God doing, I hope that we can communicate that back and that you can celebrate, because it's your partnership in ministry with us that allows us to continue to celebrate. And before we jump into talking about the ministry directly, I just wanted to read these 2 verses because often in ministry and in missions, there's a lot of change. A lot of change can happen quickly, and we'll share a little bit about some change for us tonight. But in the change, our focus remains steadfast. And our focus is really kind of what we say we would echo what we hear Paul say in Colossians when he says this. Speaking of Christ, he says, "Him we proclaim, warning everyone and teaching everyone with all wisdom, that we may present everyone mature in Christ. For this I toil, struggling with all his energy, that he powerfully works within me." So our work is consistently and constantly about the proclamation of a person, and that person is Jesus. And this is what we aim for, day in and day out, no matter where the Lord has us. It's a proclamation of a person. Through word and through deed and in love, we proclaim a person, and that person is Jesus. We serve with an organization, and I'll have some slides up here that I'll point you to. We serve with an organization called Converge. And I'm going to give us a little bit of context about how Converge is organized, and that'll then help make sense of some of the work that we do. So Converge International Ministries is broken down internationally into these 5 regions: North America, Latin America and the Caribbean, Africa, Asia, and the Europe and Mediterranean region. Now, we worked in Poland in the Europe and Mediterranean region. In each of these regions, I'm going to see if this is close enough to work. If not, I might have to move a little bit. Yep, let's see. Hold on just a second. In each of the regions, Converge has what's called initiatives. Now, these initiatives are like a focused effort on a people group, a region, like a geographical region, or something like that. So when you hear the word initiative, you can think, oh, this is like a focused effort or a focused work. When my wife and I, more than a little over 8 years ago, moved to Poland, my wife and we had 3 kids at the time. We have four now. But we had, yep, that one was born there, the one that just raised his hand. We had 3 kids, and a little over 8 years ago, we moved to Poland, and for Converge, we were the only missionaries in Poland for our organization. And part of the role that we were given was to focus really on church planting and discipleship, but to also explore how God might be at work in this region of the world, and to think and pray about what would it look like to build a team in this region for continued work. And so 8 years ago, we set off for that, and by God's grace, He has really given us the privilege of seeing what started in just Poland now expand to 4 different countries and a team building to work on gospel work in 4 different countries. And so I lead for Converge what is called the 15-5 West initiative. You'll see it up there right in the middle. And the 15-5 West initiative, what that means is we're focused on we're asking God for a gospel movement among the 15 largest cities in the countries of Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia that will also plant gospel communities and at least 5 unreached villages around each of these cities. So what we're focused on doing is building out teams who will see a movement of the gospel take shape in these cities, the 15 largest cities of this region of the world. So that's where the 15 comes from. The 5 comes from the 5 reaching unreached villages. And then the West, that word comes from these 3 countries are all part of what we call the Western Slavic language bloc. So they share a common language formation and history. And so this is the initiative or the focused effort that we've been asked to lead. And this is what we've been working on primarily for about the past 5 years. And our team has grown. So you see our family here, Andrew and Miranda brothers, who lived in the same city with us in Poznan, Poland. And then Jana Osapenko. I'll share a little bit more about her in just a few moments. But if you want to hear God's providence, Jana is Ukrainian born. But grew up in America. But was fluent in Ukrainian and Russian. And 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, she was trying to get in contact with us because she had a heart for Poland. And for a year, we couldn't get in contact because of communication mishaps through Facebook Messenger. She stayed persistent for over a year. We finally were able to get in contact. She started working towards joining our team, and as she was raising support, the conflict in Ukraine broke out. She still has family in Ukraine, but talk about a gift from God in that a person who already speaks Ukrainian and Russian is now joining our team when we have 3.5 million Ukrainian refugees coming across our border. Isn't that cool how God works that kind of stuff out? Then we have Lemuel and Brittany Martinez, who just in this June, moved to Szczecin, and I'll talk a little bit about Szczecin. And then we have Zach and Misha Herod, who work in Prague. So this is our 15-5 West initiative team. So in those 3 countries, we're in the 3 cities. But also, God has given me the privilege of leading our team in Moldova. That's him. Yep. And I know you've met him. So I get to work with Sergio and Vika and Roman and Emily and their family and get to provide oversight and leadership to our work happening in Moldova. And as you know, if you've heard from Sergio, there's some incredible stuff happening in that part of the world. And I look forward to continuing to walk with those families as we see their work continue to expand. So I'm going to kind of summarize a little bit of what we do. To kind of help kind of draw it together. First, I provide leadership to our initiative. So leading teams of missionaries in Eastern Europe is the simplest way to say it. That means coaching missionaries, walking alongside them, helping care for them, resource them, provide the tools that they need to accomplish the task in front of them. And so that's part of my role. Another role that I have is because I lead the initiative, I also serve in the entire European and Mediterranean region. So I serve on the leadership team that gives oversight to all of our workers in Europe and Mediterranean, which we have with children. I think we have about 180 people in Europe and the Mediterranean region that we get to walk with. And so through that, we get to help work with discipleship trainings and various things to help develop further missionaries for further work. And then my wife has a huge heart for what we call TCKs, which is third culture kids. Has anybody heard that phrase TCK before? Okay, so here's I wish I would invite my wife up to talk about this. Do you want to come say a couple words about what she has a huge heart for it, so I'd love her to share for this.
So just really briefly, TCK, Third Culture Kid, is what that stands for. And a third culture kid is someone who has spent a significant amount of their formative years in another country. So that's not just missionary kids. That can be military children. It can be any other expats who might be living abroad because their parents are working. So, but missionary kids fall into that category of third culture kid where they've been significantly impacted by a second culture. And so they kind of have this unique third culture, which is where we get that term from. So our kids, for instance, even though our older three were born in America, they were raised in Poland, and they don't really feel Polish. They don't really feel American. So they kind of feel this little third realm. And so that's the simplest way to explain a third culture kid. There's a lot of idiosyncrasies that come from raising third culture kids. And so I get the joy of helping our region, the parents, come alongside their kids. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of educational pieces that are challenging. Just different things that can come with raising a child in another context, especially when you think about, too, at least for us, but many of the countries in Europe, you're raising kids in a context that is not what I was raised in. So I was raised in America. That is my background. To raise my kids in a country that's post-communist is very unique. And so each country in Europe where we have missionaries, there's just many different idiosyncrasies that come with raising children in another country. So that's the simplest form. I've been able to do some trainings and get to walk alongside another one of our Converge employees, and we get to help our parents, just know how to best love and care for their kids.
Yeah, so if you think about it, healthy families, and the stress that families live under, it's important that we care for our families and that we also provide resources for our families for their kids. And parents navigating this need tools and resources to know how to best walk with their kids who've grown up in a different culture than they were raised in. So I'm really excited for my wife in that she gets to be a part of that. And then third, Harry said I have two jobs. This is kind of the third piece. I work also, too, with our training and development team with Converge, helping develop new trainings that we use around the world to train our global workers and our missionaries. So a couple years ago, I was able to help develop what we call a gospel movement training, which is giving our missionaries around the world tools to help think through how do I best make disciples who make disciples who make disciples to see a gospel movement take shape in my context. So we were able to help develop a new training for that. And then what we're calling our Equip training, which is, most simply put, it's a training that allows any missionary going through the process of becoming a missionary, so raising support, all the way through their first 2 years in country to get a master's degree. So now they can go through this process, but then get an accredited master's degree by completing the Equip path that we've developed, which is just helping to try to better equip our people for the work that's before them. So those are the roles that we're in. That kind of summarizes. But let's just share some stories, because those are usually a bit more fun to talk about. When I started into language learning about 7 years ago in Poland, I got a phone call. And I got a phone call from a guy who lived in a city called Szczecin. So Szczecin is about 2.5 hours north of where we were. It's right on the German border. It used to be called Stettin when it was German, but it's Szczecin. Anybody in here a Dietrich Bonhoeffer fan? Okay, so Dietrich Bonhoeffer wrote The Cost of Discipleship and trained his students in Szczecin. You can go to the garden where his seminary was, where his school was, and it's a really cool place. But this pastor called me and said, hey, I have this building, one of the only churches I know of in Poland that has their own building, not renting space, but actually has their own building in a city. And he says, I have this building, it's falling apart, but I really want to reach more of the people in my community. I know that you have, he said, I know you have experience with international church. Could you come talk to me about that? And so I went and met him, and we started talking about what does it look like to start an international English-speaking church in your city. But as we talked, I could tell there was something deeper in this man's heart. And I said, hey, buddy, could you tell me what really is the passion of your heart? And he said, what if we could reach 10,000 people in my city? He's like, God has given us this building. We're the only church in the city that has a building. What could we do with this? And he says, I have a dream to turn this into an evangelical ministry center. And he said, and then from there, I want to reach our city. And if we could reach our city, we could reach this country. And if we can reach this country, we could reach the region. I mean, he just goes, right? Like, this is the path he's going down. And so about 6 years ago, he started in the process of renovating the building. Hey, bud, can you go back to Mama? Thanks. He started into the process of renovating this building. And the local government started giving him funding to renovate it because it's a historic building. It's an 1846 German church that met in this building. The building was taken under communism and then given back to the Baptist church, actually. The Baptist church actually had to rent their own building for a good number of years because it had been taken. It was given back to the Baptist church, and he had a vision for it. And this building is like weeks away from being open and the first ever evangelical ministry center in the city. And we just placed some new teammates there in June to walk alongside this pastor and help them reach their city with the gospel. Just incredible to see God do that. I'm going to go through this. Part of what we've done over the past few years is helped launch a new church in our city in Poznan, working with a team of people. We helped launch a church called Amazing Grace. In English, they chose to name it Amazing Grace, which is actually quite difficult for a Polish person to say, but for some reason, that was the name they landed on. They landed on that name actually because they believe that is really what will be transformative, is the amazing grace of God will be transformative in this context. So we worked alongside a team of Polish people and helped launch a church, and we stepped away from that work 2 months ago when we left Poland. The church, as you can tell, is continued to grow and thrive. They're doing just amazing work, and we were really excited to be a part of that team. This story too, one of the gentlemen who actually joined our church plant, a guy that I saw a picture of him yesterday, and it actually made me almost tear up because I miss him. His name's Christian. And I met Christian through our church planting effort, and quickly found out that Christian was an evangelist. Very quickly. Because I met Christian because he had just moved into a little village like just outside our city. And him and I were talking one day, and he says, you know what, I'm just going to get on Facebook, and I'm going to ask if there's anybody in my little area that wants to read the Bible together. And I said, okay, cool, do it. See what happens. So he gets online and he asks, anybody here want to read the Bible with me? And he posts this on Facebook, on their city Facebook page. And instantly he has 3 people who contact him and say, yeah, we would love to. So he starts meeting with these people and reading the Bible with them. And all 3 of them become believers and get baptized. This is him baptizing these 3 people. And so Christian and I start meeting. We're spending a lot of time together. Christian is just one amazing young man. He is out on the streets. He's talking to everybody about Jesus, loving on people, sharing the gospel with them, just doing some incredible work. And so we're really excited about what God's continuing to do through him. I still get to talk to him on the phone quite often. We just talked the other day because we're working on how he can continue to work with our team in Poland as a national. But the cool thing is, remember Jana? I talked about Jana. What I didn't mention about Jana is Jana, too, is an evangelist. Jana, here's what I share this story because I always find it so encouraging. And my kids have heard this story, and they've actually seen it lived out. Jana has a dog. Yeah, what kind of dog is it, Milo? A golden doodle. So if you know what golden doodles are, you've seen a golden doodle. Jana has a golden doodle, and Jana brought the golden doodle to Poland with her when she joined our team in January. And instantly, this dog became somewhat famous. I'm not kidding. The dog has over 6,000 followers on Instagram. Because there are not many golden doodles in Poland. The city of Poznan, where we live, posted a picture of her dog that she had posted online, posted a picture saying, "Come meet Brewer and Jana. They're always around town." The city is advertising our missionaries for us. Right? Like, how cool is that? And what's cool about Jana is she never wastes an opportunity. She will have spiritual conversations with everybody she meets. And a lot of the times people stop to talk to her because of her dog. She'll walk the dog down the street and people want to talk to her. And then she gets to the gospel with them. I don't know if we can find one and put one up, but yes, we'll have to. It's a beautiful dog. But to me, when we talk about missions, sometimes God uses that type of thing to get us to gospel movements. It's people who are just willing to take whatever it is that they have and remember, I'm about proclaiming the gospel. That's what it is. And so Jana and Christian now work together, reaching the youth of our city. It's amazing. It's amazing to me. For me, knowing that I was leaving, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute, knowing that I had a teammate who was going to walk alongside somebody that I had been working with was just a joy that God gave me. So celebrations, what are we celebrating? We're celebrating new teammates. All the teammates that God has given us. We're so excited. The longest standing teammates on our team have been in country 2 years. We have a very young and new team that God has given us. Internships. We had 8 interns in country this year over the summer. Some there for 4 weeks, some there for 1 week. But for us, it was a huge win because we got to take a group of 8 people and walk them through life with us. And one of them is actually coming back this next summer for a 4-week internship. She was there for 1. She's coming back for 4. Regular prayer gatherings and prayer walks. We believe prayer is crucial to everything that we do. Actually, it's a priority for us as a team. Right now, in Poland is a church walking the streets from the United States. They're walking the cities that we work in, praying for those cities. So one of our partner churches said, we're going to send a team to pray for the cities. They're there right now praying for the cities. Discipleship pathways and developing strategies to reach our cities. We've been working hard on this, and we have things that we're working with together to see disciples who make disciples who make disciples. We're actually translating TTI right now into Polish. We have somebody working on the first book for us, if you've heard of TTI, so that our team can use that as a foundation to work from. And then perseverance, and this is where I'll share a few things, things that we're celebrating perseverance. This past year, often as a missionary, it's very easy to want to come and share. You're going to come this way. It's easy to share all the highs and the joys and the wins. But sometimes, and I think you guys in this room, you know this, life is not always that way. There's difficulties, there's trials, and our team has faced a lot of that this past year. We had one set of teammates who almost lost a pregnancy, and it required a spouse being in the hospital for 4 months. The baby was born healthy and survived, which is an absolute miracle, but that was a heavy thing to navigate. We had another set of teammates go through a major ministry crisis that we had to help them navigate and walk through. We've had constant illnesses throughout the team. and trials and difficulties that they have faced and walked through. And then in February, the end of February, my wife, who has struggled a bit with some health issues for a few years, she got really sick really fast. And we ended up taking her to the hospital, and we found out 3 days into her hospital stay that she had gone septic and had sepsis. And but by God's grace, she's here. God saved her and protected her from that. But in that, when we kind of evaluated things at that point and noticed that, man, over the past couple of years, her health has just declined greatly, and it ended up with, culminating in getting and having to fight off sepsis, that we said, we think that we need a little bit of a change of location for a time. And so we made the decision that our family would relocate to the United States, but to continue to lead the work that we had started from here. By God's grace, we have beautiful technology like Zoom and other things that we can continue and continuously stay in contact with our workers and the team and our national partners. Obviously, it does not replace face-to-face and being there, but we can do that. And so that's what we're going to do in this next season. We don't have a plan yet to return to Poland. I will make multiple trips a year back to Poland and Czech Republic and Moldova to be with our team and meet with our team. But we needed to make the decision as a family to relocate. And so we did that. By God's grace, since we've been back in the United States, my wife's health has been much improved. And we still have a lot of things we need to work on with it, but it has been much improved from where it was. But so that's a bit of the change in transition, but yet the steadfast focus remains the same for us. So next steps for us, what we feel like, we want to increase prayer engagement. Like we said, we believe this is the tip of the spear, and everything we do is prayer. So we're going to continue. We have a new prayer coordinator on our team who's going to help increase prayer engagement. Continue to implement discipleship and training for our team. We have a residency program we're launching, so a 2-year program where somebody could spend 2 years in the country of Poland or Czech Republic, and they will also work on a master's degree while they're doing it. But we have one resident coming next year. He's going to be in country for 2 years, working alongside our team. We're going to be focused on recruiting new workers. So if you could pray for that, pray for new workers that would want to give themselves to this work in Eastern Europe. The development of TCK resources, as my wife was saying, and then partnership development for us. Being back in the States means a new budget, a new season, and then with my wife stepping into some of the work with TCK things, we need to raise some more support. So that'll be what we're focused on next. Again, this is what we wake up still every day and give our lives to, is the proclamation of Jesus in all that we do. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for you guys. I'm thankful for the opportunities that God has given us in this, and very, very grateful that God has allowed us to continue the work that we've been able to be a part of. I know I went through a lot really fast. And so I want to just ask if there's any questions if there's something that didn't make sense, or if there's any questions that you might have, I'd be more than happy to answer questions here for this next part and for a little while. So if there are any questions, let me know. Mm-hmm.
Does Poland have any other established churches from way in the past that maybe aren't as active now?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I would say answer it this way. Poland in 966 became a Catholic country because the ruler of Poland was baptized so that he could marry the Czech princess. It was a political and religious decision. And at that point, the Poland itself became a Catholic country. And from our experience, what we've seen to be true is that Catholicism was kind of just overlaid on top of the existing folk religions that existed in the country. And so I would say, the Catholic Church has been existent in Poland for over 1,000 years. and is steeply in decline, especially among young people. But we do still know people within the Catholic Church who we would say are very much Christ followers. And so often we talk about discipleship because we talk about it even in that context. Other than that, other denominations, there are other denominations. There's about 7 major denominations that exist in the country that have been in the country for a while. But out of those 7 denominations, they make up about 0.2% of the population. So the evangelical church in Poland is 0.2%. So out of a room of 1,000 people, only 2 would stand up if you said, "Are you a follower of Jesus in this way?" So it's quite a small population of people. Yeah. Yeah, we do. We need more dogs on the team. We actually got a dog, but it didn't help our evangelism efforts at first. Yes.
I was just wondering if that 2%,
Mm-hmm.
is that something it's declined to 2%, or where is
Yeah.
it? In other words, generally in
Yep.
the country, are they more accepting of Christianity, or
Mm-hmm.
because I understand that a lot of young people are just, dropping religion of
Correct.
any. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was asking, is it that it's in decline, or you're building it back up?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering where that is.
Yeah, so I was actually at a gathering in April in Warsaw of all of the denominations and church planting organizations in the country, and when they presented the current kind of they have this picture of the map of Poland and where churches are, like it has not changed much in 20 years. It's been about 0.2%, and now they're actually starting to say it's like 0.16% because things are declining still. So when we moved to the country 8 years ago, if I wanted to go out and have a spiritual conversation with somebody, it was pretty. You could be pretty confident that you would have some common ground in regards to the belief in a monotheistic God, and you could start there, right? Like that could be a good starting point. Okay, we both agree that there is a God. When I was out with Christian and others 2 months ago, a little over 2 months ago, we had this sign up just as a way to try to start conversation with people out on this street. There's a very crowded street, and the sign just asked, what's one thing that you would like to do before you die? And then we let them write on a notepad and stick it up there, and then we have a conversation with them about it. There was not one person that we talked to that believed that something existed after death. And that's in 8 years. Not even God, not even a plurality of gods, just nothing. And so that was eye-opening to me because I was like, man, in 8 years we've gone from at least being able to start the conversation with God exists to now it's nothing. And so, no, communism actually I think solidified some of the religious position in the country, because under communism people could be a part of the especially the Catholic Church, and so it solidified that in some ways, in some good ways. I think now it's openness and exposure to, they've only been outside of communism for about 30 years. And so there's money coming into the country like crazy. There's materialism. There's a very frustrated youth with the religion of their parents. And so let's just not even deal with it. That's yours. That's your church. That's your religion. It's not mine. And so I don't want anything to do with it. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if there's animosity towards evangelicals.
Yes, not. I would say probably not. It, it's very rare that we ever hear of any sort of like physical persecution. But even in the country itself, if you give your money to an evangelical church, when you file your taxes, it says on there that you gave your money to a sect. It's classified as that in even by tax law. I would say the biggest thing is not even in animosity towards the church. And this would actually be a result of some of the communism, is the lack of trust that exists in the culture. I mean, you can imagine if you live under communism for so long, who do you trust, right? Because even your favorite neighbor might have something on you and they're just waiting for the right moment to share it. So imagine the outworkings of that when you talk about working together with churches or sharing resources. Or it just takes a long time to build trust. So I think that plays a huge part in where we're at with the church. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are good questions. Mm-hmm.
Are you having opposition from the government, or you have complete freedom?
Yeah, we have. So the question is, do we have any opposition from the government? Not really. No, we're too small to be even on their radar at some level. There's really not much opposition that we've ever faced from a government perspective. No. Mm-hmm. Any other questions or? If you have any, let me know. We can talk about anything.
One of you missionaries, we just brought a team back from Santo Domingo. 11 of our people went to Santo Domingo on Thursday, 2 weeks ago, Thursday. Friday night, 300 people came to accept the Lord.
Wow, incredible.
That these people had an overwhelming experience.
Mm.
Do you get people who want to give their heart to the Lord?
Yeah. Yeah, you do. They say usually on average it takes 10 gospel conversations with somebody to have that happen. But we do get people who give their lives to Christ, like Christian experienced too through his work. But it's not in the numbers that we would hope. So we do celebrate every little step of obedience and faithfulness on the journey, both in our workers and in the people that they work with. And so it is exciting. I'll share this, and maybe this will even promote or prompt some questions. I think one of the things we haven't seen the full effect yet in regards to evangelicalism in the church in Poland is the result of the conflict in Ukraine. Because we had in Poland, in the entirety of the country, 40 million people, we had 5,000 people who would attend Baptist churches in the entire country. So out of 40 million, you have 5,000 who attend. After the conflict started, a few months after, we had 25,000 because 20,000 of them were Ukrainian. So and Ukraine actually was probably the most evangelical country in Eastern Europe. Over 3% evangelical population. Well, all of a sudden, all these people start coming across the borders to countries that are less evangelical, and with them, even though they're in need, they're coming with the gospel. And so it's kind of like an Acts 8 type thing, right? Where persecution breaks out and people with the gospel flee. And so it was actually, I think that's going to have a profound impact on the country, and we're just starting to see the beginnings of that. And what's going to happen there, which is again why I'm thankful for a teammate like Yana who already speaks Ukrainian and Russian and can jump right in. Mm-hmm. Yes.
We have American troops in Poland now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any work going with them?
Yep. So the international church in Poznan, where we were, there are quite a few troops. Actually, we our house that we were living in that we had rented, we handed over to some troops, an American family that was moving in. And then our team in Szczecin, Lemuel and Brittany, who live in Szczecin, that's actually where the NATO headquarters is that handles the first 7 days of any conflict that's going to happen inside the eastern side of NATO. So the NATO base there is obviously there's more and more people on the ground, and he has started to reach out to them in efforts to kind of see an international church start on the basis of the growth in troops and students as well. So yeah, we do have quite a few military and that's increased greatly. We don't have any direct work other than those two things. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You started that you've talked about. How
Yep.
long has it been working, and how successful, how far advanced has that come along?
Yep. Yeah, so the idea of the 15.5 came about in 2019. And actually at that point, our organization was just having us focus on Poland. And so it was actually, it was named something different. And then in the spring of 2020, they asked us to open that up and to consider a broader area. And that's when it became the 15.5 in the spring of 2020. And so from that time, we've gone from just us to the team that I showed, so multiple sets of teammates. So we're in 3 of the 15 cities right now. And our next steps focus is actually to build out our teams in those cities. Because in a country like Poland that is the size it is, we can do a lot of work relationally with other cities without actually having to put people on the ground in those cities. And so we're going to build out our teams where they are, and then use those as kind of launching points. And so I would say we've made some significant progress in those regards. We have a growing network of national partnerships and national partners that we work with and that we're connected to and that we get to walk alongside. So in those ways, I'd say we've made some significant progress. When we talk as a team, and even when we've worked with TTI a little bit, we've talked about laying the foundation for the future work. We feel like we're at a point where our goals in these next season is if we could find, in the next 3 to 5 years, if we could find 5 to 10 key leaders who we could walk alongside in regards to disciple making, I think we would count that extremely successful, because then we're laying a foundation. This work's going to be generational, so and we're kind of trying to set ourselves up for that. So that's a great question, though. Thanks.
So, your expectations on TTI becoming effective, and that won't happen for a while, from what I'm understanding what you
Right.
say.
I would say not directly on TTI. I would say we're using as a team, we're using TTI as a foundation to work from, to figure out as we work in this area. We're using it as a common platform for our team to engage with, and even with conversations with TTI, they've said, "Hey, take it and explore what works, what doesn't work, how it, what language do you need to change, what approaches do we need to change? Let's work towards being effective, not just implementing a tool," which I greatly appreciate. And so, from my understanding and how TTI works, and I've walked with them, I think we have a lot of foundational work to do before something like TTI would run as well as it can. And so I feel like our team is a part of what our team is called to do, is help build that foundation for it to run on in the future. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Does it make you feel old? Isn't it good that we have young people? As Steve was telling us about this ministry, I just, it takes a lot of energy to go to church, and that's work. But we're so grateful to you and to Jenny and to your family for coming here tonight. If anybody has one parting question, we can go ahead and get that off. Otherwise, we can lift up all of those of our membership who are in need of prayer. Want to thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, kids, for being so well behaved. I'm sorry that you didn't bring the dog. Next time.
Next time,
Yeah.
for sure.
There's got to be a culture shock also. I can't imagine. Oh, Poppy, okay. Well, I have Macho, but no, he's a tiny little dog.